Hello, everyone. I'm Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom, and welcome to the last month of the year.
Hello, Andy. I am your other host, Scott, coming to you from Toronto, where it definitely feels like we are entering a new season. Winter is on its way.
That's good. It's a beautiful time of year over there, isn't it?
At the moment, no.
No, the transition maybe not so much, but when it comes, it comes. It's very nice. Yeah.
You know, bright, sunny, snow-covered winter day for sure.
Yeah.
Today is not that day.
No, fair enough. Well, today this is the Tea and Timbits podcast, global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. This month we are going to be talking about process, and we will be opening that series, I suppose, with the importance of process and qualifying for a culture fit. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that topic, Scott, I understand you have a story for us.
I do, and I think I was reflecting on it, or it sort of stood out in my mind when I was sort of observing the moment happen, and thinking about the fact that we were doing this theme for December. As you know, I was at a trade show recently, and I told a quick story last time about my delivery woes and my shipping. Well, it's still not resolved. We'll see what happens there. That's not my story. I'll just keep complaining about it until I get back.
Sounds like that might be a long complaint.
Yeah. I was talking with another business colleague at this event about trying to get things done. And he was lamenting that he had gotten this sort of, let's call it an influencer program, for lack of a better sense. I mean, in the corporate space, they sort of have a different word, call them champions or MVPs or what have you. And it was a really good idea, and it sort of got a lot of enthusiasm internally, and it launched to great fanfare by corporate standards, which means they send an email. And and then it kind of took on this life of its own. It manifested into everybody wanting to sort of have a say in it and lend their influence to it. And nothing happened, and it never really gained any momentum. And it was because there were too many cooks in the kitchen. There were too many people trying to assert their opinion, and it really only takes one person to dissent in some of those scenarios to kind of kibosh it, especially when it's sort of a self-initiated endeavor, when somebody's trying to sort of show some initiative and put together a new program package, project idea, what have you. It's not really sort of a top-down mandate. It's one of those scenarios. Well, then if you really can't get perfect alignment, it's very easy for those kinds of things to get derailed. So the comment was, watch out for that. And he's managed to rein it all back in, and sort of it sort of died on the vine, which meant he was able to kind of go quietly and recover it, but do it differently, still with the right kind of communication and to get the internal support, but kind of with a smaller core group of maybe just one other person to lead it, and then when it has a little bit more formality and official structure, sure, loop more people in. So I think we've all sort of recognized those moments, and I'm not saying don't involve stakeholders and other key contributors, but if you're trying to move something along, it does require some assertive leadership, a bit of process, and I think that kind of gets into what we were going to talk about today.
It does. That was a good segue there. I quite like that. Oh, very good, very good. So, what is your desired outcome from this discussion on the importance of process and qualifying for a culture fit?
So, I like the second part of sort of the title here, qualifying for the culture fit. I am a believer that process is important, but I also feel that if it's imposed in the wrong environment, it won't help. And if the people and the posture and the character of some of those folks, and not even the individuals, but the job function, the role, if you need I think this, in my mind, I'm thinking about business development in particular. So, and now I'm getting into the episode, but I'll rein it back into your question, which is what I hope people get out of it. And that is the culture fit part. That, we all have heard the endorsement for process. But I often think we forget to make sure that the process is engineered for the culture, or that the staffing of the department is aligned with the process. So you hire into the culture that exists. So it's a very sensitive sort of part of finding process success.
I think it's a very good desired outcome, because I think it's something that people do forget. I mean, when you're doing the recruiting, or trying to add customers and business partners and so on, it's often focused very much on the functional capabilities, and can this person do the job? Can this person do it in such a way that that is going to deliver the results that we want? The same with the service partner, and is when it comes to customers, is this customer willing to spend the money that we want for the product? Good, then that's fine.
Right.
But neglecting the cultural fit actually is going to create a lot more problems than if you did take the time to consider it and maybe take out an otherwise well qualified candidate or business partner or customer, which is always a hard decision, and that's probably why a lot of people don't do it.
Right.
But the impact of not doing it is often quite great. I mean, I've definitely seen it happen, where you get a new member on the team, and it can result in some internal conflict and some customer dissatisfaction if that has not been taken into consideration.
Yeah, and that's we're saying the same thing here. I think you have there's one responsibility, which is when you're sort of resourcing, building it, your team, maintaining it. When there's turnover, you cannot hire just for skill and experience, right? And you also cannot hire just for enthusiasm and culture and personality, right? And you cannot even just hire for sort of what you feel is a good blend of both of those things. Your filter needs to be your process.
Yes, completely.
So what have I got internally? And there's also, so we're talking about an internal resourcing thing, but I also, like, for us, this applies every day when we're dealing with clients.
Yeah, exactly. For customers, for service partners, everything. Yeah.
Right. And it's the very first step in our sales process, which is we qualify for both. Can we do what you need done? And do we do it in a way that's congruous, harmonious with what, with your organization? Are you amenable to the way that we're about to do this work? And that reminds me of a story I'll put down to tell next time. But I do think it's both an internal thing and it's an external qualification thing. Part of it's a lot easier in a smaller business to sort of pick and choose for client cultural fit. But I think as you're scaling, you need that even more. If you sign up for, and listen, like every growing company is guilty of just signing up another client because they need to add the revenue, or they think it's going to be the next step to help them accelerate their growth. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's the one you're going to spend years kind of disappointed that you took it on, because now you're committed. The coming back to the point here is make sure that you are communicating and honest with both that process, that you have and the culture that's in place already that surrounds that makes that work, or is holding that back. I mean, you might be trying to evolve here, right? But you can't be the only one to make the decision, is what I'm saying. So
No.
when you're hiring, it's not about going, well, if I just ask the right questions or say the right things or talk to this person long enough, it'll come to me. So it will, but you need to make sure you're doing your darndest to tell the other party as much as you know about how your systems function, how your work gets done, the culture that surrounds that, so that you're transparent and they know what they're walking into, whether that's a client
Yeah, exactly.
or a person.
So what would you say? I mean, you said this was the first step of your sales process is this qualification. How did you go about defining what your culture was?
Right. So when you ask that question, it's sort of sometimes I think might be assumed that we started by defining a culture we wanted, then put things in place in order to achieve that culture. That's not at all what happened. It is the natural evolution of the culture, and it's being able to look at it and go, okay, wait a minute, that is the culture. Like, we're an agency, and the classic stereotypical thing, at least in North America, is Thirsty Thursdays, foosball tables. Like, it's a kind of a fun, high energetic environment, and everybody's just super excited to be having fun with all their colleagues. There's a lot of good serious work that gets done in agencies with that kind of culture too. It's very creative. But sometimes clients even kind of expect that vibe when they come in for a meeting or a conversation, and that's not at all the way that you would discover the culture to be with us. It is a heads down, headphones on. If you're collaborating, you're doing it over chat. It is just everybody geeks out on the problems that they're solving, the work that they're getting done, and the satisfaction of accomplishing that. And that's a very and so some people when hiring have walked into our office and been like, what's like it's really quiet in here. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's right. Everybody's smiling and enjoying their work, but they're kind of doing it in their own zone, and they're still communicating, but you just don't hear it. And if you're looking for an environment that is a contrast to this, then you'll find it. Keep looking.
Yeah, that's right. And this isn't the place for you if that's the case, isn't it? And that's the good thing is that because it's very clear and everybody there understands it. Maybe not necessarily by looking at a document and going, oh, this is how I need to behave. It's just something that is natural when you get that good and right group of people together, that they just work very well, and that becomes part of that culture. That is the life that you have. So
and I'll also think it's worth making the point that like both of these things can change and shift over time. You'll find that that culture process that's in place is actually not very efficient or effective to achieve business outcomes, and you might need to change one or both of those things. You'll also find that the individuals, both on the client side, both internally, will shift over time. Even the individuals. It's not that the makeup of the team has changed, or the dynamic of the client has changed. I mean, we see this often as economic scenarios shift and clients get given different mandates, and then all of a sudden the same person you've been jiving with really well on the other side of the table is got a different posture and expecting different things because they've been told that for their business this is a new normal. And there does need to be some flexibility when you look at applying process, and I think a good process has some baked in element to accommodate and be resilient for being able to accommodate a certain amount of flexibility. There's a threshold there, obviously. But I think a good process is clearly defined and has sort of a structure to it, but part of that structure is flexibility.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Is
When
that
you
too much of a
in your own business and in companies that you work with, do you see a lot of team involvement in the decision making?
Yeah, I mean our whole entire delivery approach, our project structure requires that it there's work that needs to get done. There are there are products that need to get built and services that need to get delivered that have a finite, clear definition. And somebody needs to say yep or nope. But feeding into that requires a great degree of collaboration, transparency, communication.
When it comes to, I'm asking you all these questions rather than making statements, but it's fine. I mean, when you're talking about a sales team culture, you can often have, some quite, I suppose, cutthroat salespeople, who are quite,
Yeah.
forward, very loud and boisterous and
Sure.
determined and very focused on what they're doing and the way they're doing it. That can work well individually, but it can disrupt a team culture. How do you propose that companies who need that type of person in their sales team, but maybe feel that doesn't fit in a culture, how would you propose that the companies try and balance that and help to integrate those two different cultures, I suppose, into
Well,
a business?
is there something behind that question? Like, have you seen that happen? Have you got that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm often that person as well. So uh, so it is something I personally have to work with because I work with so many different companies with
Sure.
so many different cultures. It is often the case that sometimes these companies have a disconnect between the sales team and the rest of the organization, sometimes within the team themselves. And then often, I'm coming in with the purpose of shaking things up and realigning things or changing things.
Mhm.
And so I have to be quite, not necessarily a fit with the
Right.
current culture, and help to drive that change, which can be really challenging. Which is why I'm not trying to make any bold statements here, because I think all cultures work,
Right.
but you need to be very clear on what that culture is and not try and go, oh well, a little bit of this and a little bit of that will be fine. It isn't, and it doesn't work. So if you do need these different personalities within your corporate culture, including from customers, service partners, as well as employees and people on the sales team, it is very, very important that it is made aware of and not just ignored, and that there are activities put in place to bridge those gaps, such as, kick off
Mhm.
team meetings and events and quarterly get-togethers and stuff, where everyone comes together in a less professional environment, so that people get to know the person behind the business person that they're interacting with on a daily basis. And I think that can also be an important part of the culture. And again, there's nothing wrong with doing those type of events with customers as well, and service partners.
Yeah, and I would suggest there's probably a difference between sort of building out your team and hiring you to shake things up. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you need a disruptor in order to perhaps more rapidly change. Because I think it's a bit of a there's a I was going to say I don't know that the question itself is as obvious as
No, maybe not.
as we've been saying here, and because I don't think that you need that kind of boisterous salesperson doing their thing. If it's disrupting the rest of the organization,
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
not a
If it
fit.
doesn't fit, then
It's
it's
the
not a fit.
like
Yeah.
you can find people whose approach, posture, character is a contrast to that, who are equally as effective at delivering sales results. So that might work for that person, and it might work for you and your business, but if it's causing other kind of turmoil and friction, it's not a culture fit for your process.
No, that's right. That's right. Dude, there was a company, and I've been trying the whole time we've been talking to remember the name, but I really can't. But they quite famously, they prioritize their cultural fit in the business so much that during the training phase, you know, when they get someone in, they've gone through the hiring process, they felt that they're the right people. If they then feel during that training phase that they're not a cultural fit with the rest of the organization, they'll actually buy them out of their contract.
Right.
Because they'd rather have someone who fits within the organization than potentially damage that by having the wrong person join.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the company,
I
but it
wonder
became
if
quite
it's a real
famous
one
that
or
they were
just a
doing this.
folklore. Like,
No, it's a real company. It's a real company. Yeah, I think they were offering, like, you know, candidates at all stages, you know, a couple of $1,000s and stuff to leave the process. So yeah,
interesting. There you go.
Go on then. Okay, I was gonna have another point, but I've just seen how long this episode has become, so I think I think we have achieved your goal of making it very clear that the culture is an important part. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hope so. It really is sort of about sort of both needing a good, strong process and having the right people to help you execute.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, there we go. If you want to find out any more about culture, process, or finding a good fit, get in touch with us at tintimbits.com, where you'll find many ways to stay in touch and to subscribe and listen and watch us in the future. But for now, thank you very much, Scott.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everybody.